best record in one-run games over the last 2 years. Because the Mariners, last year, we did a lot on this program on the Mariners and the kind of secrets to the success because they were about -50 in run differential for a good part of the year, yet clearly a good club. You watch them day to day, and they won 90 games. So you're like, all right, is that flukish? Because a lot of this stuff is, there's been plenty of studies. You see, they're way ahead, 61 and 36. Yeah. There are tons of studies that will show that your record in one-run games, not only, John Heyman, won't transfer from one year to the next, it frequently doesn't transfer from 1 month to the next or one half season to the next. But I'm thinking it's more than randomness that's happening here.
Well, I mean, that goes along with the bullpen pieces. The relievers are mercurial, as you always say, right? So they are. Yeah. But they've done a good job with the bullpen. I mean, Swanson's outstanding. Murphy, Munoz, Castillo, they have very good relievers on this team, so it should not be surprising that they have a very good one-run record.
Usually when that happens, and that was mostly happening with Buck Showalter's Orioles of recent vintage. So you could say, oh, it's the manager because Buck is very good with the bullpen, and it's also how good is your bullpen. I think you had Zach Britton going for him, obviously, at the time. But take a look at the Mariners, Joel, before we get to you. The Mariners this year, because Scott Servais, we were getting ready for a ball game last year and said, how are you doing this exactly? You're getting outscored, but you're winning. He said, we have guys who get outs at the end of the game that no one has ever heard of. And here we go again. You tell me if you know any of these guys or all these guys. Not you two. I'm talking to the people out there.
We know them.
Yeah, Diego Castillo, at least, was more of a high-level bullpen guy. But look at, I put the strikeouts and the walks. You see the innings and the ERA. So everybody's pretty good. And the strikeouts and walks are outstanding. So I'm thinking, too, Joel, it's like, well, this is kind of organizational. When you're this good and everybody's good, it's not, he's having a good year. Your approach has to be successful to have that.
Yeah, like Paul Sewald has one of the worst ERAs in Mets history for the amount of innings he pitched for them, and he's been superb for them. Jerry Dipoto is known as a very volume-heavy trader. And it's one area where their trades have really worked out. You mentioned Eric Swanson. That was the James Paxton trade with the Yankees where it was Justice Sheffield. Well, it turned out Swanson's been the guy they got a lot out of. The other active GM, overactive GM in the trade market is A.J. Preller. The trade where they get Ty France and Andres Munoz for essentially Austin Nola. That's a hell of a trade. It's their starting first baseman and this power reliever. All those guys are these little trades, basically, or waiver wire pickups. They've done there's not a lot of money invested in that bullpen, and yet it's one of the better bullpens in the sport and well manipulated, to your point.
Right, and I don't know how many people are responsible for that. I know their pitching coach is Pete Woodworth. I always like to point out the guys who are in the weeds who are doing the actual work, because there's probably a lot of people from baseball ops to the coaches to maybe bullpen coaches, but everybody working in sync. And we do criticize clubs that, you know, when everyone's having a bad year, or we look at how come the White Sox aren't better? How come what happened to the Tigers? And it's like, okay, here's the other side of things. Things are working, clearly working. I think it's heartening to see there are clubs that are doing things successfully to maximize performance.
Yeah, they've done a good job. You consider the pitching coach the weeds? That's interesting.
Well, how much
I consider that a key guy out front.
No, he is, but he's not. How publicized is Pete Woodworth?
Not very.
Not very. That's what I'm saying. You talk the manager, the GM, and then you talk the player, and in between there's probably 5 guys. But yeah, the pitching coach is a big guy.
He's never mentioned, and we should mention him. I'm glad you mentioned him because obviously he's doing a great job.
Yeah.
Can I throw in one thing, because I've been thinking about it a lot, and this is kind of the show for it. It's probably a segment some other time. Look, when you're thinking about all the things that's gone right for Seattle this year as they're trying to break the longest streak in North American team sports in not going to the playoffs since 2001, you know, like the bullpen, the signing of Robbie Ray, certainly Julio Rodriguez coming through, likely the American League MVP. I've been thinking about
Rookie of the Year.
I'm sorry, Rookie of the Year. Thank you for correcting me. If you have a young two-way catcher, Adley Rutschman, Alejandro Kirk, Cal Riley, it goes a long way to being a much better team.
Like switch hitting? Is it
no. Two-way meaning you're really good on defense and you're really good on offense.
He hits home runs.
Yeah, it's why I think this offseason, Oakland in Sean Murphy, who's a terrific defender and is a guy, pretty good hitter, especially has some power.
Right.
I could just see a team like the Tampa Bay Rays, who have a lot of prospects, lining up and saying, what do we need? Because that guy, we got control of him for 3 or 4 more years. They're so valuable. The young Two-way catcher, to me, is one of the commodities we don't think about a lot, but if you've got it, you've got a big advantage because almost nobody else has it.
It's a good point. Right, value is scarcity. When we do top 10 right now, it gives us a good assessment of, all right, where are we? And we'll do like the first 5, and then the rest, you get platoon guys.
Think about
right
how the
after that.
Orioles took off when Rutschman came
happened right away.
Like Toronto, when they finally settled, hey, Kirk is our everyday guy.
Yeah, he's great. He's great.
The young guy who helps you on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, the other side of things, just to wrap this up, is they have finally like a full outfield in Julio Rodriguez.
Yeah.
They made the big trade for Jesse Winker. I thought they deserved more at it. Winker's been excellent up until this year, and we still might see a good version of him. And Mitch Haniger now is back, who is, again, he's mercurial. He's injured a lot. Played a full season last year and was kind of one of the keys to their success.
Yeah, they finally settled on one. We thought Lewis was going to be a star potentially. Maybe he still will be. Kelnick, we thought he might be a
We just
star.
had Edwin Diaz on. That was the Kelnick trade, and we all thought that Seattle killed it with Kelnick.
Isn't it like Lewis and Kelnick were supposed to be their foundation pieces? Pieces have not worked out at all, and yet they're able to survive that.
They got a different outfield. And it's good to see Haniger healthy because he is a great power threat when healthy.
So all this just thrown out, like, are they a threat to get through? Like, we thought Yankees and Astros were so far ahead. Now that the Yankees have come back and we're looking at kind of more of a mix with it. No, the Rays will be competitive here too, or do you think now it's just the Astros are ahead of everybody else?
Well, remember, the first round of the playoffs is the best 2 out of 3, and you can start Luis Castillo and Robbie Ray in 2 of those games. That's pretty good with that bullpen, with a little, to John's point, Haniger's power, J-Rod's power, Cal Riley's power. I mean, can they at least get out of the first? First of all, job one was simply to finally get to the playoffs. It's been 20 years. They're going to get to the playoffs this year. I think they're a live wire. Win a World Series? No, but to win a round or 2, I think they're in play.
Yeah, Houston seems way above everybody else in the American League to me.
Yeah.
These are good teams. Mariners have certainly improved. Give them credit, but Houston is on another level.
11 games better, actually.
That's a big level.
It's quantifiable, as we say here in business.